And I've just started recording. It's called the meeting of the Clintonville Area Commission Zoning and Variance Committee to order. Do I have any objections to the agenda? Then we just introduce ourselves to our one guest.
Our applicant?
Yeah, our applicant, yes.
Oh, hello, I am Mike McLaughlin.
I'm Jason Edbowing.
Diane Haber.
Stephen Hardwick, the chair.
Mike Law, Vice Chair.
Sharon Groves.
Andrea Purnell.
Doug Ware.
And thank you, Doug, for your last meeting here. I'm sorry that sad to see you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ran out of time.
But I appreciate all your time. I appreciate you now figuring out, and I understand we'll have to decide which commitments we do. It's better to do that intentionally than to do it unintentionally.
The kids just keep signing up for things. I don't know what's happening.
And first we're
Kids over us?
and
I like to stay married, you know.
it's no secret that I sent an email to there's at least one spot of someone, everyone else has applied, at least one spot for someone new, and I sent an email to the commissioners for District 7, 8, and 9 saying, please send me names because we have no one from that entire part of town.
That's
And Michael Weinman said he was going to give me one name, and she hopefully will get back to me soon. I don't know if we'll hear from anyone else, but my plan is to, of course, if we get a great applicant from somewhere else, that's something that's where I would plan to start. Certainly, we don't need another person from District 3. We already have. Anyway, that's an entire part of the town. That's an entire part of town that doesn't have anyone here. I always say that idea, diversity of opinion and perspective is more important, but that's an awful lot of people that aren't here. Okay, draft minutes from previous meeting. Does anyone have any corrections? And if so, can I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
The
minutes.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Is there any abstentions? So that's 8 approved, 8-0. Then variance agenda. We have one item on the agenda, and I think that he's going to say there's going to be one change he has to this, but it's to construct a vehicle turnaround in front of the dwelling. Seeks a variance from 33-12-25, maneuvering to allow maneuvering between the street right-of-way and the parking setback line. The way things go is you have the floor, and then we ask you questions, and then the members of the public get to ask questions. And, and then we bring it back to us for a vote.
Yep. So the one change is on the rendering. It does show it being 16 by 16. City of Columbus kicked that back. Said nope, that's too wide. So reduce it down. And they did not give me any they just said make it smaller. I'm like, how would you like to make it smaller? And they're like, just smaller. And I'm like, okay. So I reduced it from north to south. So it's only going to be 8 feet wide by 16 still deep. And the idea is, and I'm assuming everybody here has drove down Henderson Road. My wife works in the morning, and then when she's trying to back out in the morning, we have a one-car garage. So I have to park in the driveway. Essentially, when I park in the driveway, it takes up the entire driveway, and then she has the driveway to back out in front of the garage. So when she backs out, she is backing out into Henderson. Even if she's going westbound, when she backs out to begin to go westbound, she's backing out into eastbound traffic, right? Because that's such a small westbound lane. So it does not matter how we back out, she's going in traffic. On top of that, when we pull into the driveway, if we want to back into the garage, if I'm in the driveway, there is nowhere to make. Let me retract that. We can make a 100-point turn and get it finagled back where she can back into it, but the exemption is to create enough space in the yard space that you see there to where she can pull in and then back into the garage. Or she's pulled in so she can back out and come out.
Is it going to be up here or is it going to be down here?
Well, so now because now because it has to be smaller, we're thinking about bringing it further south into the yard. But we want to be careful because Columbus, my understanding, by the way, we've already moved to this house back in November. I'm learning a lot fast about what Columbus has done, what Columbus hasn't done. And so when they built that retaining wall, I don't want to get too close with the cement pad, that retaining wall, and then begin to push the land out. So I've got to give a little bit of area there. So it's weirdly enough, kind of like where you can see the grass dying, almost immediately where your cursor is. Yeah, just a little below that. It'll probably go right around in there and allow a little bit of breathing room or flex so it doesn't push out wall down. The other thing that's really, it might be on the application I filled out for you all, is my idea is to candidly take out grass because I find it minimally beneficial and put in native wildflowers and something that's a little bit more beneficial to pollinators and stuff like that. So I know someone was concerned about seeing the parking pad and seeing people parked. Admittedly, we're not allowed to park there. It's strictly a turnaround pad. But I still want to mask a little bit with wildflowers so it's not an eyesore also.
Like the neighbors.
Very similar to neighbors, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not going to lie, when I saw they had it done, I was like, oh, this will be easy.
Yeah, expensive, easy.
No, turns out. So theirs is a little bit different now. Like they have taken some of that grass out. I feel like now there's more wildflowering now than what's indicative there. But I definitely want more. I want less grass, more wildflowers, admittedly, than what's there. Kind of what I want to model it after actually is if we go east of High Street and we look at like Weisheimer, where they put like what looks like rain gardens in along where the gutters are. I want to make it similar to that in the front to help with erosion and just kind of make it look a little bit more appealing than what it is now with the parking pad there.
Questions from the committee?
So it's not 16 by 16.
It is not 16 by 16. It'll be 8 feet running north to south, 16 running east and west.
And
You'll have room to park one vehicle off of the maneuvering pad and still be able to maneuver the other vehicle into the garage?
Extraordinarily tight, but yeah, it's kind of hard to see on there. The previous homeowner looks like they laid another strip of concrete or something like that adjacent to the driveway. So I can I drive a Jeep, so I can pull it pretty far to the front door, essentially to where my bumper is essentially hanging over our front porch.
And then you can get around the
And
back
then she can get around the back side of the Jeep. I will fully admit that's not what we fully wanted to do, but I also get there's zoning, there's stuff that I have to, I understand that. So we're going to do with what we can and just kind of accept it that way.
Just out of curiosity, and you might not know this, but just to get a feel, do you know how big their turnaround is?
I don't know exactly. They have a Subaru Outback also, and the Subaru Outback fits in there pretty snug, but I do believe theirs is roughly 8 feet wide and about 10 to 12 feet deep also. Because when I see their Subaru in there, it's like, oh, that is, my wife also drives an Outback, so like that will roughly, it's like in my head, I can conceptualize that should work for her.
It looks like they
Yes.
so when the city says that the neighbors is 8 by 16, are they measuring maybe they're measuring from here?
Part of the radius.
Yeah, they just told me, all the city told me was to make mine smaller. That's all. They didn't tell me what the neighbors did. They just said make yours smaller. There was 2 feedbacks from their internal committee, and they said, well, with the size it is, it's indicative of someone who wants to park there, so make it smaller. And I'm like, fair. Like, okay, I'll make it smaller.
Do you know whether if we grant the variance as written, the next person could just pave up the whole thing, or do they have to is there some restriction? What's the restriction to stop you from doing that?
Well, having an honest contractor, I'm willing to guess. I'm willing to bet I would assume that if you were capable on your own, you could probably candidly go out and dig up your front yard and pour concrete in on your own, and the city probably would never know. Like, I mean, I would assume you could probably do this on your own quite easily, and no one would ever know. And for me, I just was like, well, I'm going to use a good contractor. The contractor put the application in, and that's when it got flagged. And they're like, well, and that's when I began to learn about setbacks and parking lines and all kinds of fun stuff. So, but I would assume that if a contractor had access to a concrete truck and wanted to do it on their own, they could quite honestly probably come in and do it one day on their own, and no one would ever know.
The surprising thing is the city does, especially usually in the front of your house on a busy street, they'll notice.
Yeah.
They do.
I can understand it being smaller because, again, at 8 feet north to south to 16 feet east to west, your neighbor has a 1-car drive. You have a 2-car drive. It looks like almost a 3-car drive. Why do you need 16 feet just to back up and turn around?
It was, the 16 was just where I measured it out just to make sure she has room to back out. I'm not married to it being 16 feet. It was when I measured it out in the yard, when the contractor measured it out, there's like a berm that you can kind of sort of see where it begins to roll. Mm-hmm. The 16-foot line just kind of brought it right before that so that it was just a line that we kind of artificially came up with in the yard.
The 16 feet measures from here.
The edge right there back, yeah. So it takes it to right about where that cursor is now, maybe a little less.
I think it only needs to be half that.
Okay.
Just to back into it. Again, you've got a 2-car driveway. If you're coming out of the garage. And,
Part of the maneuverability could be within the driveway itself.
right. It still gives clearance for the truck sitting, or Jeep, whatever you drive.
Yeah, like that's when if you could, between now and the commission meeting, talk to them about what you need to do so that this really is whatever size you say it is the next neighbor, assuming that someone is watching, what would stop them from paving the entire front because of that? And see if there's language that can be put into it that would limit it to that. Does that make sense to people?
And go a little further.
Need a little
into that.
bit more exactitude.
Did you talk to your neighbor?
I've talked to my neighbor to the left. To the couple that has the turnaround already. They're obviously okay with me putting it in, and they put the same thing in. I haven't had a chance to meet the neighbor to my east. I haven't met them yet. I think the big difference for the neighbor to the east, they have a drive that goes all the way back around to their house, because when you look at the plot and plat map for this area, there used to be an alley that went down, and at some point they decommissioned the alley, because you can still see the 2 nubs of it at Rosemary and Zeller. So you can see where it nubs in, and so you can tell that the neighbor to my east, he has a garage back there that I'm guessing the alley probably went to. Well, yeah, actually, there you go. You can kind of see, coming from Zeller, you can see where it's coming in. Zeller's to the west, you can see where it comes off from Zeller and moves eastbound. And then from Rosemary, you can see.
Which one is your?
Go back right about, move your, where the cursor is, move it 2 more houses. Nope, back the other way. So you see where Ideal Protein is?
Yeah.
I am that 2 houses to the right there. Yep.
Right there.
And so you can see where there's 3 or so of our houses that when they decommissioned the alley, we lost the ability to be able to go back there and have the additional parking space that we would have had. Where I'm assuming we probably had a detached garage at one time, but and I think the previous homeowner, the homeowner before them, somebody, is the one that went in and added what looks like walking paths or something. So you'd made the comment, it looks like it's a wider driveway. It's a driveway, and then on the east and west side of the driveway, it looks like they essentially put in like a sidewalk, essentially. So there's walking, and you can tell it's definitely not the same depth and the same strength and so it's just kind of is what it is. It's what we bought, so we're making the best with it. But that's why ours looks wider. They put walking pads on the east and west of our driveway. But yeah, you can actually see my neighbor's driveway, how it kind of wraps back and around. And then Ideal Protein has a pretty cool driveway where it goes under. There's like a lean-to, right? You can kind of see it right there. So their driveway goes up and under that, so they have a really big.
Yeah, but in front of the front door, that's still a driveway.
In front of my front door?
Yeah.
Part of it, yes.
Yeah, because to the left of that, it looks like in front of the big window is that sidewalk that you talked about.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, correct. Yeah. You
Yeah.
can see it right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the application we heard before had 3 variances, this only needs the 1, is that correct?
It's all there. You're only asking for one variance that I saw there.
Right, because the other one, there was a 10-foot to 5-foot setback and a building setback.
Just see what I went by
So
record detail. I'm gonna go back to
it's 27 July 22.
yeah, then I'll go pull up the application now too, just to double check. I think I have the application over here.
Because I'm just trying to figure out where that setback is.
Nice house.
Existing drive,
The maneuvering is the same, but the other 2, I'm not.
because I took that from the city's description of it. The variance is to improve safety for my family visitors.
That's this application.
Right. That's description. That's one thing I've asked the city to do a better job of for these applications, especially for people who aren't lawyers and professional builders. They need a section that says, I'm asking for a variance in this section from blank to blank.
Right.
And the way I see this is they're only asking for the maneuverability.
Right.
They're not asking for anything else.
Right.
And that's the way the city treated, yeah, the thing is, they don't have, there's not a clear statement in the application, so I was going by. One thing I just learned to go by what the city, just how the city describes the variance.
Yep.
And you might want to, that's the other thing to do is check with them, are you sure this is the only variance I need to make this happen?
Okay.
Because you can see the.
Because the neighbors had 2 extra variances on their application, and I'm just wondering if this is really all you need.
Okay.
Because you don't want to have to find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
See you back.
Oh, by the way, see you guys in a couple months.
So I guess that's the homework, is make sure that that's all you need and ask them, what limits this to an 8 by 16,
Okay.
an 8 by 16 foot, and how do we describe this so that the next, assuming we trust you,
Yeah.
that you sell the house in 20 years, that's the next person, what stops them from paving the
Yeah.
entire front yard and using it all as a turnaround?
Yeah.
What if they turn it into a brothel? What if they turn
I
it
know.
into this? What if they turn it into that? I mean,
Actually, right. Is that my neighbor's right there? How deep is? Does it give measurements on how deep theirs is right there? So you can see, like, if someone knows off the top of their head the depth of a Subaru Outback.
Well,
There you go.
have the exact
Yeah.
numbers ready for the commission, so you can say from where to where. I know that
That's helpful.
that's helpful, because I think that's part of what the committee's job is, to get everything defined, so that you don't sit with the commission and say, wait a minute, are we talking about 8 foot or 10 feet? Because we're asking for specific numbers, we should be able to put specific numbers in there.
Just trying to figure out what it is. 10 feet to 5 feet, 25 feet to 20 feet.
So if your drawing is actually to scale and it's a photo, I would assume so, that's actually 20 feet from the front of the Subaru to where the radius for the edge begins, so essentially the straight line from the driveway. Pretty larger than I would have thought.
So from the front of the Subaru we're looking at right there to the dotted white line, essentially is 20 feet.
That's what this scaled out to be based on year 16 that you have on the page already.
Hey, so I say I'm even 4 foot shorter than the neighbor. There you go.
Or year 16, not 16, but
All I know is that the drawing that we see below came from a actual like Maxima concrete, like that is not me doing Photoshop. That is Maxima concrete. So I would hope that there's just a scale incorrect. I'll say that.
Do you intend for this to be rectangular or curvy like that one?
So I do intend, I don't love the curvy, to be completely frank. If you prefer the curvy, I'm here just to make sure I can get a turnaround in for my wife. Because at the end of the day, so if you tell me you want curvy, I'm okay with curvy. The one thing they do have that I actually like the idea of is there is curbs on theirs. Like, not a curb, like not rounded, but there's actual curb to help with like water runoff and rush, so it doesn't like. I do like the idea of that to help with the water runoff of the pad. So I do plan on doing that, but in my mind, I'm a little bit more of a right angle kind of person, so I was going to go with right angles on the back.
And your intention is to do plantings
Yeah.
and whatnot around, and you were saying about.
Yeah, I want to put wildflowers in around, like native wildflowers in along the south edge of it and the west edge of it.
My thought on aesthetics is we're not an aesthetic committee. And I always thought is keep you and your neighbors happy, and anyone else who moves in knows
Yeah.
what they're getting.
Yeah.
For aesthetics.
The retaining wall there between your property and the property to the west,
Mhm.
is that on your property? Is that your retaining wall or is it?
That is, we found out that is his retaining wall, actually. So that's the other thing that we've discussed is like, that's the other thing that me and the concrete company discussed, because I want to make sure that, again, I don't want to push it so far out that all of a sudden, so that actually brings up a kind of an interesting point. And you'd asked earlier if I talked to the neighbor. I have talked to him enough. The one thing that my neighbor to the west of me did kind of ask is, if you look at that, that's a pretty significant drop. It's kind of hard to see from that particular angle, but
It looks like.
it's a couple feet, 2 to 3 feet, if I'm guessing. And so he did. He's like, hey, when the concrete company comes, if there's any way we can just like level it out a little bit lower, even to where it's not, because it does. Even when we moved in, he was having to rebuild the retaining wall and put it back up. He's like, it does kind of. So I was the other thing I was kind of contemplating of like just trying to bring it down just a smidge, so it's not as high and it's not putting as much pressure on that, because his is a wood one. His retaining wall that's running north and south between his property and mine is actually stacked lumber. So that would be an added benefit if I can get it lowered and kind of reduce that pressure on it.
How far is it from what this is gonna be to the house? Guesstimate.
Guesstimate. Well, if we were when the idea was to do 16 by 16, it took it from, you see, kind of sort of where the cursor is now. When we didn't do 16 by 16, it took from where the cursor is, and it took it to about right where the shadow line is of the tree. And so now that we're not going that far, it's obviously going to bring it back 8 feet down toward us.
Got it. Well, then that takes care of building one.
Do you think your concrete people could give you a different drawing?
Oh yeah, he's super receptive. I could probably shoot him a text or email tomorrow, and he'd have it to me by tomorrow. I mean,
And then,
there's a foot of snow out there. They're not doing a lot of concrete laying right now. I'm pretty sure he's sitting around not doing a whole lot of anything. So
do you have they would agree with the
oh
homework?
wait, are you asking for an 8 by 16 rendering?
Or what, yeah. Or what,
I do have that. I do have the 8 by 16 if you'd like that.
If you send it to the same zoning email, I can put it up there.
I can airdrop it to anybody, or I can email it wherever you'd like.
As much information, specific information as you can have going into the
That's
meeting is gonna help.
Do people want to see that now?
Sure.
Say, so I'm trying to get this over to the, here we go. Why don't you,
Let me get my readers on so I can see what I'm
I
typing.
don't know if I can have set up my airdrop, if I can set up the airdrop just quickly. But can you, if the email might be the easiest.
Yeah, what email would you like me to send
Same
to?
what, hardwick.zoning@gmail.com.
Hardwick?
Yeah, want to even use. Everyone know, I think we're going to be changing that because I was able to find that the domain clintonville.ac was available. And,
Better grab it.
no, I did. I bought it and I'm hoping the commission can reimburse me, otherwise they just made a $30 donation.
You should have that email now.
Okay, that donation before.
See if I can get this open and get this in a separate screen. That's Dogs. So did I get the Google Docs screen in there? No, I did not. There we go. And one thing that can be done is you can always put a map, they usually can put a map, I don't know, this isn't really a map, but put the drawing in your application, and if they stamp it, it can become part of the official, this is the site plan, but part of your homework is checking with the city to see how you can make if that's acceptable to them, and that, how you can make that the plan. And I know we can always say, what if somebody cheats? But my thought is, what do we want? Assuming no one cheats, what do we want to allow? What do we want to vote for? At least we should know what we're recommending to the commission. If we're recommending to the commission something that'll let them pave everything, we should tell the commission that. And if this is all that it allows, we should tell the commission that. But they should know what they're voting on.
I don't think the city would let them pay for everything. That was the vibe I got from the city, because this city is one that kicked it back and said that's too big.
But if the variance is too broad,
Yeah.
they may not have a choice but to accept it, right?
Yeah, right. If
So you're talking about concrete, yes?
It is concrete. Which does bring up an interesting thing, because then I was like, well, to be candid, to go back to your maybe like kind of concern is there is nothing, I don't think, that stops someone from coming in and putting in crushed limestone or, pea rock or something like that.
That's disallowed. You gotta have a hard surface.
Does okay.
at least for driveways, I don't know but I think his point, I think, is could you just make your
Call
whole
that your
yard?
lawn.
Could
Yeah.
you make your lawn
It's-
crushed limestone? I don't
Yeah.
think,
Zero escaping.
Yeah, it's a hardscape.
Yeah.
I don't think, there may not be.
Yeah.
I think that's just a question, and maybe it's just, you can only use that part, this amount for a turnaround.
Yeah.
I think,
So that's what we're looking at now, though. But that does give a pretty good representation. You asked, what it looks like, the setback, and now that I'm looking at this big, because I've been looking on my phone, it's the same size as the neighbors, but you can also see the amount of setback from the front of the house too for it.
right. Do we want, maybe, could we, I guess, because we don't have the members of the public here, I'll put the motion on the floor to approve, and then we can amend it. So the motion to approve is on the floor. Does anyone want to put, and this only, we can only do this with your permission, put on that we're voting to approve this with the understanding that it will be no bigger than 8 by 16, as shown on
Is
this.
that all right with you?
Yeah.
So motion to approve with the understanding that it will be no bigger than 8 feet by 16 feet as shown in the in the, what we displayed at the meeting. And I'll make sure I'll send this to Michael so that he'll have it for the minute.
Yeah, my wife and I just moved here in November. We plan on being here for a while, so I'm not trying to make any enemies. And squeeze an extra 3 feet here and there, and go bigger what we need to. So, yeah, if 18 or if those dimensions works for our body, it'll be interesting watching her try to squeeze in, behind my Jeep. But if that works for everybody, then yeah, that
She'll
works.
get better at it.
She'll get really good at it eventually. I'm sure my Jeep will pay the piper a couple times, but it'll be all right.
I had to get a maneuverability variance myself, and yeah, the reason that they asked for the distance is because you need it, but you're also correct that you'll get good at it.
Yeah.
Do we have any other discussion, or are we ready to vote?
The only thing I would add, we comment all the time on, well, what happens in the future if we approve this variance. That seems to be a common thread. And on other things, we've just said, well, that becomes a code enforcement issue. And as we've noted here, there's probably not much stopping you from paving the entire yard except the city coming along and doing their code enforcement actions. I think we just have to allow that the city has said this is the one variance they need, and if there's code enforcement issues in the future, that's the way it is. They already stressed to the applicant that they would not be allowed to park in that is for turnaround purposes only. So if in the future people do increase the size and start parking there again, that becomes a code enforcement issue.
And anyone can comment as they vote, so I'll start with Michael McLaughlin.
Oh, me? I'm going to say no, because I think the 16 feet is still too big, that east-west. It doesn't need to be that big.
Yes.
Yes, I believe that safety is a huge consideration to me with the first application and with this one as well. Henderson is not going to be ever any less trafficy than it is now. It'll probably get worse, and I think we want to be able to safely get out on that road.
Michael?
I'm going to vote yes, as I echo Diane, your comments about safety, and also add that we've already approved several similar turnarounds on this street over the years.
Yes.
Yes, and I absolutely agree with Diane that the safety issue is way bigger than the issues that are represented by the zoning requirements with regard to the paving, so yes.
And Doug, your last vote?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well, partly because, the Morse Bethel connector is never going to happen. The people who pay the price for that are the people on West Henderson, and we owe it to the people on West Henderson to make life less difficult there. I think maybe we should also mention, I'll try to mention at the meeting, that planning and development, as they're going through the next stage of zone in, which looks at residential areas, should look at what should be done on West Henderson specifically, because it's such a unique, it is a unique area, and maybe we just want to say that everyone can do a certain size turnaround without having to come and ask again.
The good news, that might be the last one.
Well, so by the way, it's approved. That means it's approved by a vote of 7 to 1. It will go before the Clintonville Area Commission at their meeting on February 5th. That starts at 7 p.m. The zoning agenda usually doesn't start till after 8, but that's never a promise.
Yeah.
And that's at the Whetstone Library. Our next meeting with the newly confirmed members will be on February 25th, 2026. One thing to think about for those of you who are going to be returning is if there are any changes in the rules that you think we should make, because we're going to need to, maybe not this at the February meeting, but at least at the March meeting, we'll need to go over our rules and submit new rules for the upcoming year. Since I don't think there's any more we need to discuss on yours, and if you want to, so are there any objections to adjourning? Without objection, we're adjourning at 7:35. Thank you very much, everyone.